All right, welcome everybody to the Power of Connect and Chat. My name is Bobby Umar, and I'm here with John and Andy. This is our second time we're actually together sharing some insights around the LinkedIn algorithm, talking about newsletters and lives. And so we welcome you all to this chat. We hope you engage. A couple of rules of engagement here. So first off, engage us, ask questions. We want to hear from you. We want to know exactly who you are. So tell us where you're from. Tell us what you're thinking, and then ultimately, ask questions, comment on what people are talking about, engage everybody so that we can actually have an incredible conversation today. Also, I want to note that today is Remembrance Day in Canada and other places around, and Veterans Day in other places around the world. So we are going to take a moment of silence on the 11th minute of the 11th hour of the 11th day, which can be 11 a.m. But before that, we'll start the conversation and get going. And again, if you have questions, please put them in the comments below. We'll start off with introductions. So I'll start to my left. John, why don't you go ahead first, and then we'll go to Andy.
Thanks, Bobby. Yeah, I'm John Espirian. I'm the relentlessly helpful content writer, LinkedIn nerd. I write content for B2B clients, and I love doing LinkedIn experiments and talking about things like the LinkedIn algorithm. So I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. And Andy, go ahead.
Thanks for hosting, Bobby. Again, Andy Foote. Reassuringly expensive LinkedIn brand enhancer. That's it.
That's it, eh? Okay, good. And my name is Bobby Umar. I'm a professional speaker by trade for the last 15 years, but now I focus on doing some also coaching and training around thought leadership branding, which includes helping people be better storytellers, relationship builders, content creators, and getting the results they want to, with mindset, confidence, and LinkedIn as well. So, as well as places like Clubhouse and Twitter. All right, so let's get into it. I see people here. Okay, Tegan's here, Tristan's here, Leah's here. This is awesome. Okay, so a lot of people are getting into it. So I think what I'd like to do to start off with is, Richard Vandenblom. We did a live stream with Richard Vandenblom several weeks ago, and it went really well. A lot of people showed up, which was amazing. And now we're thinking about maybe we should do this more often. And he's going to join us in December for another one, but for now he was a little bit busy. But I thought I'd bring my two favorite LinkedIn nerds to talk about the different things and discuss and debate the different issues. What I thought I'd do is let's start with the creator mode update. So I think so we just had this new update in creator mode where now we can actually, more people can access newsletters, more people can access live streams. And I wanted to kind of get your take on that, and then we can dive deep into maybe some strategy around newsletters. So who'd like to go first?
I think I don't know if you guys already had newsletter before this latest rollout came, but I didn't. So I was hit kind of unexpectedly with this announcement, and then the next day, everyone and his brother is putting out newsletters, and it feels like you've got to be part of the gold rush or you're going to miss out. And so I very, very quickly got a newsletter out. But I found that same day I got flooded with like 20 or 30 invitations. And my feeling is there's going to be a lot of apathy towards this thing, and a lot of people are going to drop out of the race really, really quickly. And it's only the people who stick around in the long term are going to win from this thing. And if you don't have a strategy, you're going to crash and burn pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I was lucky enough to, I got a creator manager about, I don't know, 2 months ago. And when she was, Miranda Head is her name, very, very nice lady. And, one of the things they're supposed to be doing for creators is helping as much as possible for you to create. And so I asked her pretty early on if I could get access to newsletters. And my pitch was, look, my peers have had newsletters, right? Some of them for over a year, almost 2 years. And this is this is my livelihood. So I'm at a distinct disadvantage by not having access to this price feature. And initially Miranda said no. and she I don't know.
Did she say why?
Well, no, she didn't. She just said that, well, I've checked with the team and they say you don't qualify. And I didn't say why. I just said, look, I need this. It's important. And by the way, and then I named two other folks in my space that just got it, right? And then she came back and said, yeah, you're getting it. So, all right, great. So I don't care why I was turned down. I just care that I got it. And so that was about 2 months ago. So I've had a little bit of a head start, and I got in before the deluge. But I also, one of the first things I did, I think originally when I started getting invitations, when that first batch got newsletters access, right, a year and a half or so ago, I went into settings and turned off specifically notifications for, you know, invitations to newsletters. So I didn't get the deluge, but I understand what John's talking about, because yeah, there's inevitably there's going to be a huge amount of people who are like jumping on to this straight away, and I almost called it a bandwagon, which it isn't.
Yeah, you know, I will say that you know, I also never had the newsletter, and I begged and pleaded for years for a year and a half to get one. I did numerous live streams, LinkedIn Masteries on Clubhouse, where I talked about give me a newsletter, and people were vetting for me. Andy vetted for me. I know Kristen Galucci and String Million vetted for me, and I appreciate it, but no. Then I finally did a post saying, please, for the love of Pete, give me a newsletter. And no one did. So when this came out, you know, John and I were talking. Actually, like, I need to get this. I spent my morning. I was like, I need to get this out right away, because I know there's a deluge of stuff. I saw this, and you know, to me, this is very similar to when Facebook groups first came out a lot. When Clubhouse Club started, what happens is that there's a whole bunch of people who sign up, get it ready, put stuff out there. They invite people. They do all the stuff, and then what happens is things either completely fizzle out in 2 weeks, 4 weeks, or 6 weeks, or they build up some momentum, but then it fizzles out maybe, you know, 6 months later. And then there's people who are consistent, they do a good job, and there are some active Facebook groups, like Andy's Facebook group, which now transitioned, but it was very active. My Clubhouse on Club, Thought Leadership Brand Club, is very, very active. There was things running in that club without me that are still going on. And so I was patient enough to put that effort in. I feel the same thing with newsletters. I think that people who want to put be sustainable, be consistent, provide great value, they're going to benefit from it. And so I think for me, that's a big part of what I'm trying to do.
I'm now in what I'm thinking of as the second wave of this new breed, which is 8 days. Right, 8 days ago, I got this and I set it up, and there was a deluge of invites. And now I'm starting to see people's newsletters appearing in my inbox, and I'm thinking, oh man, what have I signed up to here? Because I said subscribe. Yeah, okay, maybe I'll try that one. But now I can control my LinkedIn notifications, but my email inbox is now being filled with these messages, and I'm thinking, okay, second wave, unsubscribe. So I think a lot of people who have got those big subscriber numbers in the first couple of days are going to suddenly realize people are going to start abandoning them pretty quickly.
Well, I think they have the advantage. I mean, the people who did in the beginning, I think, have the advantage and grew quickly. Like it grew so fast. I mean, several thousand the first day, and then I'm now at 8,000, which is amazing. So, but the other people now, I see that deluge today of new people, and I think, you know, we're going to be fighting for mind share and things like that. So. And I keep my notification on because I want to see what people are doing. I want to know their titles. I want to know their cover page. And I do a quick look. I've only subscribed to like 6 or 7. So I'm subscribed to both of yours, of course. And I subscribe to Creator Weekly with Daniel Roth and a couple other ones, but most of them I say no to. So I think I'm just subscribed to 10. But, you know, I want to see what people are doing, because again, I'm also in the learning phase, and I'm also discussing a strategy that I want to move forward on too, because one of the things I'm thinking of doing is, because now these newsletters are coming out, I know a lot of people, I originally said it's going to be monthly, right? Is it monthly, bi-weekly, or weekly? If I originally said weekly, I may not have gotten the results in terms of numbers. I don't know, I don't know. But what I'm thinking of doing now is changing my strategy a little bit, which is, now that I have the 8,000 subscribers, I want to just put together some content weekly for the next 4 weeks and just give them kick-ass content for a week to let them know that Bobby's here, he's delivering kick-ass stuff. And then, you know, over holidays, I'll ease off, and then the new year, I'll ease off to bi-weekly or monthly. But that's kind of what I'm thinking of doing, just to set myself apart. Because, you know, people have the subscribers, and then you have to wait a whole month to get that next newsletter. So I think that I want to set myself apart from all the deluge of people. But I wanted to hear your thoughts on newsletter strategy. What are you guys going to do?
I'm frustrated a bit that the fact that LinkedIn asks you for 4 data points when you set up your newsletter: title, subtitle, icon, and frequency. And yet only 2 of those data points, title and frequency, are shown to people as part of the invitation. So you spend some time crafting, what is this newsletter about? let's get a custom icon created. And it doesn't present that. You know, really what you're trading off is a catchy title and your existing personal brand reputation, so that people pick you out from a list and say, this is worth subscribing to. I'm going to go and take a look at that. So those other things, although they're important, they don't get shown in the invitation. And I think that's a bit of a shame.
Yeah. I mean, the icon gets shown on the actual newsletter, right?
Yes, of course it is.
Yeah.
But not in my network tab. You only get like a generic placeholder thing.
Initially, I thought I'll do weekly, and then I changed the cadence to monthly because I thought, well, yeah, give myself maximum time. And I think it's cool that you can switch, but I also think it's cool that although you say and it's not even a commitment, you know, you just say, yeah, all right, whatever. Yeah. I mean, you could, if you wanted, to do a newsletter every day. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. So that's a cool thing. My strategy, you know, to use your parlance, Bobby, is kick ass. It's got to be value laden, right, with every newsletter. And I'm intrigued to see whether mine will continue to build in terms of subscribers, because that's the acid test, isn't it? If you're not giving people value, what they want, what they expect, then two things are going to happen, right? It's going to stagnate in terms of it's not going to build anymore, or you might even get fallout. You might get reduction in subscribers. So I've got 14,620 subscribers to the newsletter. When I initially started, I was expecting, having looked at other folks and how they started with their newsletter growth, I was expecting about 25% of my followers to subscribe. And I actually got 28% in the first 10 days. So I got almost 11K in the first 10 days. And I thought, oh, this is cool. And now it's built to 14,620. Of my articles, the clicks, right? We don't know anything more than just clicks. We don't know how many actually are reading through the whole thing, right? But my clicks have gone from 4,608 for the first edition to 7,650 to the second edition to 10,086 in the third edition. And, you know, those views will continue to build. And, you know, let's see what happens in the fourth edition and whether or not I keep bringing the value. So that's, you know, I'm all in. As I posted about short form versus long form the other day, I said, okay, I'm going to switch. I'm going to pivot.
I've also heard some people saying that, you know, if you're going to do more frequently, make them shorter, right? So you can have some short ones on a weekly basis that, you know, don't take that much time. And then if you want to do a longer one on the monthly, then you can do that too. So these are different things. For me, you know, I'm nervous, but I'm going to test it because I want to see what happens. Do I get the growth? What's the growth in that? And I will let people know that if you like this content, please share it, and let's get some people who are, you know, going to be, you know, seeing this content and being part of the journey. So I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a lot of fun. Before we get into that, I also want to let people know that we are going to take a pause for 1 minute. So just so you know, this is Remembrance Day, Veterans Day, and so we're going to honor the fallen soldiers and current veterans who fought for freedom to continue to fight. We're going to observe a 1 minute silence at 11:11, which is coming up in a couple of seconds. So I'm going to ask my colleagues here to turn their videos off, and I'm going to share my screen to a video to something that, hold on, let's see that here. And I'll let you know. I'll let you know when it starts. We'll start in a second. Just want to get my photo right here. Okay. All right, we'll start right now. Thank you, everybody. All right, so let's continue the conversation around the newsletters. Again, a few more thoughts on strategies or tactics. Forgot where we left off.
I'm wondering, Bobby, now that you're going to be trying more of these newsletters yourself, does that mean that you're going to dial down the short form normal posts? Are you going to do fewer of those so that you can accommodate more newsletters in your schedule?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that, and that's the second part of our conversation, which is about that. Generally speaking, I've never really been, I used to do a lot of short form content. In fact, years ago, I just asked a question, what's your definition of personal branding? And that thing lasted for 2 years. It was crazy. That was years and years ago. But I would say that I'm not sure I'm going to change my strategy when it comes to the posts. I'm probably just going to post what I do, usually 3 to 5 times per week, and share that. I think the one thing I'm going to switch to now is, now that we have the creator mode with live streams, is I just got a deluge of acceptances to all my company pages for live, because I have 4 company pages: DYPB, Clubhouse and Thought Leadership Brand Clubhouse, my Ray Allen one, as well as my Bobby Umar coaching. So I'm going to start doing the Bobby Umar coaching one. We'll probably do one on the Thought Leadership Branding Club on Clubhouse as well, and start doing the live streams there. But I think for me, I haven't really thought about that. I've been thinking of just keeping on what I normally would do. For me, the newsletters is actually, it's very easy for me to quickly do the long form content. The only thing I'm thinking about now is, having seen Kevin Turner's and having seen Judy Fox's, I do have to do a little bit more with the imagery and stuff that I don't normally do. Like, normally it's just very textful, but I think I have to do a little bit more of that other stuff. So yeah.
My suggestions to you, Bobby, here would be that if you're using a premium platform to stream live, something that you can extract the video from, then I would put that video into, let's say, an unlisted YouTube site, and then embed that at the top of your newsletter, give your critical reaction to what happened in that, like a summary, and then that unlocks much better commenting system for people to react to that video, because comments on LinkedIn Live suck. Seriously. But on newsletters,
we love you people, though. You're great.
But sure, in the moment, if they're fine to use it, but to go back and respond to people, it's really difficult. But if you were to embed your replay essentially of a static video from a live with some extra content below it to get people to read that, and then let people comment on that, that will be much easier for you to manage, and will get big visibility by virtue of the fact that it's going to be sent out to email. And similarly to Andy, I would say, given that Andy's so well known for doing polls, that taking a screenshot of maybe past polls, again with some expert commentary, could spurt, could generate another round of discussion and get poll data seen by a lot more people. So 2 ideas.
Comments don't suck. The structure of the comments themselves are wonderful. Thank you very much. It's the structure and finding them, which is just a nightmare, because you have to go back, and then you have to go through a different route, and to actually then comment on the comments, which is because it's they're third-party providers, and that's probably why. But yeah, it's just, I think it's fascinating to me that all of a sudden creator mode becomes relevant, right? Creator mode, I used to say, shuffles a few things on your profile, and then people would say, oh, but it's affecting downstream. It's affecting my... No, it's not. Richard de Blom's algo report said, no effect whatsoever, which is what I was saying, from the outset. And then let's wait and see. And of course, the people behind CM at LinkedIn were saying, wait and see. So they probably, had this in their plan all along, was to give us 2 phenomenally important, I think, tools, depending on the type of creator that you are. So if you're comfortable in front of the lens and you're good on your feet and you've got the content to, bring the value and bring the engagement, LinkedIn Live is it, without a doubt, right? If I go into Shield and I look at my engagement ratios, the highest, bar none, are the LinkedIn Live shows that I've done. They're just amazing in terms of actual getting people to comment and to play along with the game, in my case. And then the other one, newsletters, what a gift. To unlock the subscribers you've been building, those followers that you've been building for years, in my case, right? To unlock even a small proportion of those, not a small 28% initially, and building, right? That's phenomenal. That's incredible. It's like I say, it's a gift. And the difference between posts and articles are indexed, right? So if you do a search on John's newsletter and you add newsletter, guess what? Top search result, you'll find all of John's long form articles in the in the newsletter wrapper. Same with anyone else, right? So your name, yeah, it's important. The name that you choose, your brand that you choose, add newsletter, and guess what? People will find it.
And I want to add a couple of things. So people are asking questions, which is great, and I'm having trouble keeping track of them all. So if you want to ask your question again, you totally can. This is the Power Connection chat. We're happy to do that. I did a poll a couple of days ago in terms of what are some good add-ons to have on newsletters to make them really stand out. And so, over the years, Daniel Robb has the, creators to know. So like, shout outs for people. I think that's really good. John does that too on his posts. Puzzles, riddles. I mean, someone suggested Sudoku. Like, there's things you can do to try to make it more interactive. They can look forward to that. Like, what's the answer to the puzzle? Comment below. I mean, there was a CEO that I worked for, and he would have this puzzle of the week, and everyone would submit to be featured, to get that answer there. So, what are some, special things you can add on newsletters to really make them stand out and be unique?
Well, you just missed my suggestion. Bobby brands you more. It's a classic. You more. Well, I don't know why you did not go with that.
Well, I did a poll, and actually the votes were Power Connection.
Who cares? They're wrong. They're wrong.
Which I have rejected still because I'm going with my own.
There's a reason Apple don't do focus groups, because Apple know better than their fans than their buyers, right? Should have gone with Andy Foot's suggestion. I rest my case.
What do you think? What do you guys think about the fact that I've heard a couple of people complain about this, that newsletters are completely indiscriminate? I mean, they'll go out to all your connections, all of your followers. There's no segmentation. There's no way of saying, I'd love to show this stuff to these people, or I'd love these people to be able to opt into this extra stuff, which is the kind of thing that you can do on a mailing list, of course. What do you think about the fact that it's essentially all or nothing?
Well, first off, I mean, as Andy said, this is amazing because I now have 8,000 out of 44,000, which I'm not sure what percentage of this is, probably like maybe 20%. But that is fantastic, because what, my posts get that kind of reach? No, I have 8,000 people that want to do this. So for me, they've agreed to receive my content. And also I've been finding out that people are now subscribed to my newsletter that aren't even in my first connections. I didn't know that, because a couple of people messaged me, hey, I got your newsletter. And I said, where'd you go? It showed up in my feed. I'm like, you got an invitation to, I didn't know that was going to put toward second connections. Did you know about that?
Yeah, all followers.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So for me, like, to me, it's a long-term strategy, right? I mean, the more you have your content strategy that's clearly aligned to who you're talking to, then the people who don't want to be private will unsubscribe. The ones who will subscribe are going to be the ones who are aligned with it. So I think probably what you're going to have is it's a wide net, and then eventually it then hones in on that target audience.
Yeah, I agree with John. It does seem to be indiscriminate the way that it's been set up or launched. And I guess that's a reflection on, the way that LinkedIn currently allows us, or rather, foists upon us a categorization system, which is fundamentally strange and confusing. I mean, you essentially have two buckets, right? Connections and followers. And then guess what? Your connections are automatically followers. It's like, oh, and by the way, your followers don't actually follow you because the algo intervenes, and at one point they followed you. So past tense. That changes, of course, now with newsletters. They actually do get to follow you, those that have, converted or turned themselves into subscribers. But I would say that I'm less concerned about the way it's been launched, John, and to Bobby's point, it's thank goodness we've got something that's building. It seems to work on relevance, stroke interest, to the audience. But I would love, for example, to have some kind of tool that tells me, okay, these are the folks that subscribed out of your followers, and then give me some kind of mechanism to go to those followers, those current followers that haven't subscribed, and say, hey, are you interested in the subscriber to becoming a subscriber or not? If not, then guess what? This is adios. And then, then all I've got are real subscribers, because as I said, the followers don't actually get to follow you because of the algorithm's intervention. I'd like something like that, because, the followers dashboard is pretty useless. You know, it just gives you the latest followers, gives you no analytics, right? You can figure out who follows you back and all of that stuff, but it's pretty threadbare and basic. So I'd like something that helps us to be, you know, have a more intelligent and analytical approach to building, you know, via newsletter and subscribers going forward. I'd like something like that. Oh, and I'd also like to see the subscribers that fall off, right? that have said, I've you know, I've read one of your newsletters. I'm unimpressed. I'm off. Not necessarily that I should so that I can go after them. I'm not you know, so concerned about that. But I want to see the fall off, and you know, it's interesting that we could do all of this manually, couldn't we? Because we now can see who our subscribers are. Yeah. Which is great. So if you have the time, the inclination, or maybe get a VA, then you get someone to put all of that into a spreadsheet, and then you monitor it like a hawk and see who falls off. You could, of course, do it like that, but LinkedIn has that data, right? Let's, you know, share it with us. That would be awesome. Yeah.
Do you think there's any kind of edge in extracting that list and then saying, hey, come and join my group, or hey, come and join my email list?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to, right? As a modern marketer, if you're selling something or you've got a service, then, you know, cross-fertilization of all your mailing lists, I think is a no-brainer, right? So I should be doing that with my blog list, and then I should have, you know, X amount of people who are currently interested in, you know, what I create.
I mean, I would probably want to let people know that, you know, if they want to subscribe to my external stuff, give them a link to that in the newsletter for sure. You know, a lot of people don't like it when you scrape their emails and send them an email saying, hey, I have this other newsletter. So I probably wouldn't do that. I think that's probably better to just use a newsletter, and you're going to get less results, but you're going to get more quality people that are in your external newsletter.
Yeah, and use Bitly.
Yeah, and I understand why LinkedIn wants it. Yeah, I understand why LinkedIn wants to have it internally on their site. I mean, it'd be nice to have that data though, so I think that's good. I just want to make sure we get some questions, because people have been asking questions, and I'm trying to keep track of them all. So. And then we'll get into the next agenda item. So Brendan Meller says, I have a question theory. I think the algorithm team rotates around to give extra love to the up and coming LinkedIn users. Then it throttles back their reach when their network starts growing. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, so very interesting. One of the data scientists at LinkedIn, Bonnie Barillo, did a very interesting presentation back in, I think it was 2019. If memory serves. And one of her screens was essentially, we help certain creators, right? If we determine that they need a boost, we'll give them that boost. So that's essentially along the lines of what, you know, what, goodness me, I've just blanked. Brenda, yeah. Brenda's theory. And so that was back in 2019. Whether it's still, you know, it's still relevant because the algo obviously changes, then, you know, she could be right.
LinkedIn have also said in an article, I can't remember when it was, last year maybe, that there was going to be a rebalancing of the algorithm so that, you know, we don't see just the Olegs and the Bridgets of the world, and that some of the slice of the pie that they were getting is going to go to the smaller, newer creators more likely. So that's probably been happening over the last year as well. And so yeah, I think that's definitely a thing. And probably all of us have reached the stage now where just growing at a faster and faster rate is probably not possible for us, although who knows what newsletter might unlock for us. But I think if you're a new person, you've got probably a better chance of growing quickly if you've got a distinctive thing that you're trying to build around.
Yeah, thanks for that, guys. I'm going to ask, let's go to another question. A bunch of them coming up. So someone said, if having too many unsubscribes in your newsletter, will that have any long-term effects? Any thoughts on that? I don't think so, but
yeah, I hope that that LinkedIn doesn't, you know, intervene, doesn't get involved and say, hey, we noticed you had a 10% drop off right on your most recent. I mean, it's got to be organic. It's got to be, you know, it's got to be sink or swim. If you're producing the goods, as I said, you're going to continue to build that interest and that list. And if you're not, then you'll see that pretty quickly. You know, you'll have people like John unsubscribing after the first batch, right? Because he's quick to decide, and he realizes he's got limited time to spend on devouring newsletters. So you better bring it.
If the rule set is everyone who's subscribed gets a notification and gets an email, then the only way that that's going to change is if they change the rules of the game. So in that case, if 1% of people unsubscribe or 20% unsubscribe, it shouldn't matter, because the people who've opted in have opted in and will get that same experience, unless LinkedIn realizes that's not sustainable. Like maybe 3 times as many people have created newsletters as they were expecting, and that's going to put huge load on LinkedIn to push out all of that stuff. And because there is a notification inventory that they're trying to keep to, and this is going to be an extra burden on that, and obviously a load of more emails to be sending out, they might think, okay, we need to throttle things back somehow. But what form that would take is pure speculation at this stage.
So to John's point about the inventory, right? LinkedIn have for a long time been very worried from the days when articles, right, were given to everyone. There was this there was a barrage of notifications all about new articles. Hey, I published a new article, and that got old very quickly back in the day. So LinkedIn were very, very aware of, oh, we must be very careful about notification noise. But this is different, isn't it? Because this is internal. This is internal to the user, and it's not public. It's not in their face. This is via Messenger. So that's a key difference. And I think it's an important one, because you have the ultimate control. You can control it at source in settings, right? Or you can do it on a per newsletter request basis. But yeah, notifications, noise. Yeah, LinkedIn doesn't do that.
What do you think about the notional difference between what a newsletter ought to be and what a long form article ought to be? Because a couple of people have asked me, does this mean that we should just stop doing articles and just do only newsletters? Or should we have a logical reason to do one and do the other? What do you think?
So the biggest difference, I think, is the subscriber button, isn't it? Because every newsletter article has that want to subscribe. So that gives you that expansionary piece that I think is missing with articles, because then you sign up, you join, John's mailing list. So that, I think that's one of the key differences. But and then, I mean, there's no newsletter tab, right? It's still an articles tab. So I think that's the biggie for me, John.
Yeah, the articles tab includes all newsletters as well as articles, whereas the newsletter dashboard includes only newsletters, and all articles are not shown on that.
I mean, the question is then, why would I do an article and not have a newsletter? I mean, I might want to produce more articles more frequently than newsletters. They might have a monthly newsletter, and that's fine too. But I think for the most part, I'm more inclined to build a newsletter, even if it was a weekly article, and get the subscribers. So yeah.
I agree. I'm going to treat my newsletters as though they were articles.
Because I haven't written an article in 3 years. So yeah, it's now getting me to do it, which is good.
It's just that some people have thought, well, it's a newsletter, and this must be a magazine of lots of little bits and pieces, and the articles are for your long form thoughts. But actually the exposure potential means surely you'd put your long form stuff into newsletters and just be done with articles.
And it looks like there's lots of questions around this too, guys. So I want to make sure we get to them. Someone also suggested, how about I just do a content slider, a carousel post in my newsletter? It'll go to all my subscribers, and they can just quickly click across and see what I talked about, and that's it. And I'm like, people can be however creative they want to be, because to me, like, I do, even sometimes I do a poll and it doesn't get traction. I mean, the traction you get, the only things that get more traction in this newsletter at this point, like 20% of my audience, would be a poll. Otherwise, nothing gets as much traction. So to me, investing in newsletters is the way to go. However you want to do it. Short form, long form, just go for it. Value, just make it valuable.
Have you seen newsletters go out as emails that contain rich media, like embedded posts that contain carousels or embedded videos? Because I don't think email's going to handle that very well. So what's the reader experience going to be like?
Yeah, I don't know.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it yet.
Kevin Turner is on here asking questions. Well, have you all noticed that the newsletters that you and I subscribe to, those authors, are now consistently appearing in your feed? Could strategically subscribing be one of our best ways to train LinkedIn on what we want to see in our feed?
It's got to be a relevancy signal, hasn't it? I mean, it's like everything else. Do you direct message that person? Do you comment on their stuff? Do you follow them? Are you in the same groups as them? you know, all of these things are relevancy signals. Do you subscribe to their newsletter? Must be one of those. It won't be a reciprocal thing, but it will be a one-way thing, certainly.
Any thoughts?
No, I'll come to the feed later when we get,
No, there's lots more in the feed.
So, long form.
So let me just say again, this is the Power of Connect and Chat. This is my live stream. I have Andy Foote and John Spearney here with me. This is our second time doing it together. Richard Van Vaughn wasn't able to make it. Hopefully he'll join us another time. I want to thank everyone for being here. Keep commenting, keep engaging, keep networking with each other. While I'm here, I might want to mention that you know, if you like our stuff, follow Andy Foote, follow John Spearney, subscribe to the newsletters. Follow my newsletter, follow my content as well, both here on my company page. I'm actually running a TEDx workshop on Saturday, how to land a TEDx talk, 2-hour workshop on how to actually figure out your story, your brand, how to pitch it, how to understand the logistics and culture of TED. I've done 5 TEDx talks. I've rejected 3 other ones, so I can teach people how to do that. And then I have a second workshop that same day, which is more of an intimate one, where I'm actually going to take your top 3 to 5 topics, listen to your entire story, and help you figure out what are the best 3 topics and what are the best titles that will tantalize the TEDx owner. So if you're interested, you can do bit.ly/TEDx workshop, all under Kate lowercase, and by all means check that out. You know, and again, later on, Andy and John will give you something else to give you an opportunity to pitch some of the stuff that you're working on too. Let's keep going. The next thing I want to talk about is long form versus short form content, and I think this really came from Andy. You know, Andy did a post where he was saying that he's going to recommend only long form content to his clients. Why don't you start with that, and then me and John will ask questions and maybe engage. Yeah.
So this is, I think, coming from a position of strength rather than weakness. I know, Bobby, you said that I was frustrated when I wrote that, and I wasn't frustrated. I said I was clear-eyed because, you know, over the years, I've seen a difference in content. I've seen content changing to become very sort of throwaway, very chatty, very social. Nothing wrong with that at all, right? But for a lot of people who are, certainly a lot of my clients, who are trying to actually move the needle and get stuff done on LinkedIn, they are constantly frustrated with the lack of traction whenever they try to do any kind of short form strategy. And to me, I get it, because although I've had success and I've managed to get great amounts of engagement, whether it's polls or any other thing that I'm experimenting with, carousels, that works for me. But we're all different, right? I've been on this platform for over a decade. So I've built up, let's say, a certain amount of dare I say, influence, right? People know my name and they perhaps know what to expect. When you're coming in cold and you have no history, no background, and you're trying to get something done via short form, it's incredibly difficult. And why is that? Is it because they have to start sharing stuff about their dog, right? Or they want to go viral and they go viral and then nothing else happens? Or if they talk about something which is purely about their business, it's deemed to be too beige and of no interest to the chattering class, right? There are fundamental differences between getting on the platform, getting in and out, as opposed to getting in, staying on it all day, having a chat with your mates, becoming a de facto pod, right, in the feed. I saw a post the other day that had 8 LinkedIn trainers chatting amongst themselves, bigging up the person who wrote something, right? And then a few other folks who were like just there for the ride and chiming in. How does that actually advance the needle? How are you achieving anything other than backslapping, encouraging one another? And it happens all the time, right? So I am saying, no, don't bother with that. As I said, you've now got a huge gift with newsletter via creator mode, right? You have a chance to unlock any kind of followership that you've built up, and you build on that and you continue to do that. And that is the long-term game that you will inevitably win as long as you are creating great value-laden content. I'm not saying don't do social. I'm not saying don't comment on other posts, right? You can do that. I'm saying the feed is too busy, it's too noisy, right? There's too much fluff in there. It's a waste of your time for the vast majority of people who want to move the needle. And it's fundamentally the same criticism that the guy who was behind, I forget the blab.im, right? The guy who was behind Blab, anyone who remembers Blab, he said, this is why Clubhouse will fail. It's because it's too social. There's not enough value. Clubhouse is for social. It's not for value. That was fundamentally the argument. And it's the same argument that I would say about the feed. The feed is irrelevant. You have to scroll to get something that is relevant, perhaps. And that's by design. LinkedIn wants you to stay on the platform and to be aimless, to be floundering, to waste your time in the feed, right? They need you to be on the platform ASAP. And that's where all the sponsorship is. That's where the ads are, right? It's a morass. It's a waste of time. Don't do that. ROI, long form beats short form. And Richard van der Blom also said something interesting in his latest report. He said 20% of reach, right, posts have lost 20% of reach, according to his. Why is that, right? Is that going to continue? And also, final thing, LinkedIn changed from 1,300 characters to 3,000 characters. Everyone thought, why did they do that? It's supposed to be short form. Why did they give us that runway, that extra runway? Perhaps that was a nudge towards long form.
John, any comment on that?
Yeah, all interesting points. I would question how someone gets that initial traction to get someone interested in subscribing to their long form content. So let's start with that. I mean, if you're starting from zero and your strategy is to create long form content, how on earth are you going to get anyone interested in subscribing to it, given that, you know, you're going to be spending a lot more of your creative endeavor writing something more substantial, so you don't have time to maybe build the relationships. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just thinking about your strategy in terms of getting that early traction. And then how many of those long form pieces are you going to be recommending that your clients put out in a given period?
Great question. So I started from zero, and it can obviously be done. And you're going to have to put out great content that people can't find elsewhere, frankly, right? So if you're gonna just try and do what the next person's doing, and hoping for the best, then that's going to be a hard slog. But LinkedIn is not the only channel, is it? I have a blog. Anyone could build a blog, right? But that's another example of building a mailing list. So yeah, we all start from zero, and it's going to be hard in the initial phase. But don't let that put you off, right? I did it. If I did it, everyone can do it.
Well, didn't you say earlier though that everyone's different though, and everyone's audience is different too? So I mean, I think what I would say to that is, you know, if you have this, there are people who do short form content really well. Adam Karpiak always has one-liners that are killing. Joel Lalage has the 5-second GIF and that quick nugget. But again, that works. Short form content works really well for established people who have great organic reach and people, they want that quick snippet. So I think there's still a huge value in that. But I think for particular people who are new and starting out, like, what does that try to get their attention? I mean, I'm all for long form content. I typically, you know, when the 3,000 characters came up, I now almost never go be below 1,300. It's almost impossible for me because I want to share a story and I want to share that content. But I certainly see value in it still. It'll be interesting to see how that evolves, because I think that you want to get their attention, and some people, if it is a busy feed, the short form can get people's attention versus the long form. But even if you're going to do long form, those first 2 lines is really what matters. You want them to click see more, and then they'll read the rest. So, you know, those first 2 lines are always going to be the most important piece. But I certainly have had much better traction with longer form content, and now newsletters. We'll see how it goes.
A buddy of mine, also in Toronto, Bruce Johnston, he's been doing long form for 5 years. So he got access to newsletter early on, and he realized, you know, as I keep saying, the gift. And he said, yeah, this is me. This is what I'm going to do. And because he writes value-laden content consistently, he's thrived. And he's moved the needle the way he wants to. He's achieved his objectives, and he doesn't touch the feed. Well, he may do, but he doesn't touch short form. So short form is tough. It's a tough game. And I think it's going to be increasingly tough because of the way it's been set up. And like I say, you know, people are supporting one another, which is awesome, but it's always the same people. And you know, when people ask about discovery, you know, well, how are you going to meet, how are you going to meet new people? How are you going to find great new creators? Well, that's up to you. As I said in my post about it, I said, don't expect to be fed on this platform by the feed, right? Go out, have a list of people that you follow, right? See who they engage with, and make your own mind up. Don't just rely on the feed for anything, frankly. Posts and newspapers of the day. They're on LinkedIn. They're quickly forgotten. They're quickly consumed. You need to build. And the way to build that, I think, is now via newsletter articles.
Given that your output is probably going to be less in long form content than it would be in short form content, one common question I've heard comes to mind, which is how often should you put a direct call to action in your content? Like, you want to, attend my webinar, or, come on my course, or I'm doing something else here, or whatever it is. If you're putting out, let's say, I don't know, 5 short form posts a week, maybe one of those could be really focused on, okay, I need someone to take some action here. If you're switching wholesale to long form, what's your strategy going to be about making the ask? How often can you do it? Is it appropriate to do it every time? Are people going to unsubscribe? What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, so obviously your cadence is only going to give you that like 12 times a year if you're monthly. And to me, the logical place would be at the bottom of the article, where I think you've earned the opportunity to ask them for the reader to do something for you. But the profile is another place for you, isn't it? For you to make any kind of ask. But I personally, I don't ask, or I mean, that's not true. I ask people to follow my custom hashtag, and then that's another conversation. What's the point of that, and where will that go? How does that help? How does that move the needle? But yeah, I've never been full throttle on asking people to do something for me. I just figure that if I continue to bring stuff that no one can find anywhere else, and it's fundamentally very useful, then hopefully that says enough that people will say, all right, this is the guy that I want to hire. And what I will tell you is that when I talked about it being noisy and it's very, very social, the vast majority of my clients I've never heard of. They've never ever, I don't know if you found this too, John, but they've come out and they've said, Andy, I've been a fan of yours for years. Really? I don't know you from Adam. So this is the thing about polls, isn't it? Polls bring the lurkers out, right? They can't help themselves. They wouldn't ordinarily have a conversation on LinkedIn, and before you know it, they're having that conversation because they're invested in the poll question. And so these lurkers are out there and they're hiring me, and they've been watching from the sidelines for all these years. Right. So that's the other reason why I think long form is just key to me personally. And everyone, of course, has different objectives. Right. Everyone does it differently. Right. And we all fall in love with other people for various reasons. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So I get that. But for me and my clients who have basically struggled to understand the short form game and to get in and to get results, it's clear to me that they've got to, now that newsletters has been opened up globally. I know some of my international colleagues are still waiting for it. You need to grab that with both hands.
Yeah. Here's one other way. One other way that I think I'll be interested to observe how this works. We all know that short form posts, if you include a link in them, have a chance of being dampened, let's say, in terms of visibility. And particularly links that are more than 26 characters end up being really ugly because LinkedIn applies their own shortening mechanism, which I hate. But with long form articles, there is no such penalty by design. There can't be, and you could set up links in long form articles for tracking analytics through something like Bitly,
exactly,
or Google UTM parameters. If you did that, you could put links in your long form articles at the top, at the bottom. You could track link click rates and say, okay, a link at the top of my article gets this many clicks, a link at the bottom gets this many. You've got no chance of doing that with short form. So I think a smart operator might try and embed that stuff in their long form content and see what works.
Absolutely.
So I want to add two more things here. One is, call to action. I put a call to action in everything I do, but the truth is, the call to action for business, honestly, I still struggle with my mindset because when I did my one post out of my last 6 where I promoted my TEDx workshop this weekend, right? How many views did I get? 300 compared to the 20,000 on the poll and 5,000 on the image and 5,000 of 10,000 the vulnerable story. It's just really frustrating. So I really hesitate to just sell for business. My call to action is about inviting conversation to see what they want, what they think. And that's it. So that's for me, the call to action. I rarely try to do it. I focus my call to action for business on my company page because those people have subscribed for my business specifically. And so I'll do that. The second thing I'll say is that, you're right, with a lot of clients I work with now. So I'm doing a lot of LinkedIn training now for like IT, insurance, financial services companies, executives and VPs and whatnot. And they have no clue how to use LinkedIn and how to build that thought leadership brand. And I think my main hesitation on the long form content is that it's hard enough to get them to even comment or even to share a gratitude post just to get engaged. That they would be extremely intimidated to have to put a long form story about that. So I think that's going to be a big challenge as we try to recommend to our clients, what to do and how to do. I know short form content's hard, but I think long form content for many is a lot harder. So that to me is a challenge.
Depends how you tackle it. I mean, let's not confuse long form with long ass, right? It can be as short. It can be as short as you want. It's not so much the quantity; it's the quality of what you're creating. And visually, it can be stunning, right? You can just fill that with infographics if you wish. That's what my next one's going to be. I'm going to be tapping all of the infographics I've done for posts, which newspapers, like I say, are now covered in dust and forgotten forever. I'm going to bring them back and I'll put them in my newsletter, but I'm going to structure it in a way that makes sense. So yeah, let's not get put off by, I have to write an article. No, you have to create something great. Happens to be called a newsletter, and tackle it that way.
Yeah, and sorry, one more question on the newsletters. Is there a maximum number of links you should put in a newsletter? This question came up.
Well, I don't think LinkedIn is going to apply any kind of penalty. So anything that looks like it's heavy with blue is probably not going to be treated well by the reader, but that's not a technical measure. That's just each person's tolerance to these things. It's like seeing a sea of hashtags. That might not have a technical penalty on it, but someone looking at that might go, I'm going to click onto something better. So less is probably more, I would say.
Yeah, and you've got cadence, haven't you? So like I said, you could write one every day if you wanted, or you could do the weekly, and then drop a different bit.ly link at the end of after you've earned their interest, their attention. Drop a different one every week and test, see what works. See, bit.ly is a phenomenal tool. It's free, and you can actually see not who's clicking it, but from which regions, etc. When they clicked. So yeah. bit.ly is a wonderful tool.
And I put all my links at the bottom of the newsletter. If they've read the entire thing and they got the value, here's everything: Clubhouse, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You want to follow me on Twitter? Like, go for it. It's all there. So, but I think it's good to have that one kind of call to action for the clicks. So I appreciate that. I want to switch over to, and again, we have a lot of people on stage, and I'm not sure how much time we have, but I do want to ask you. I mean, we're doing the live stream. We did one with Richard. There's clearly a lot of people are interested in this stuff. We could do this more frequently. We could bring in guest speakers. I want to get your thoughts on that in terms of, should we do this regularly? How frequently? I mean, obviously I can't commit to doing this weekly, but I could do it bi-weekly. We could bring guest speakers. Richard will join us in December. What are your thoughts on that? And what do people in the audience think? You can comment and let us know what you think.
I'm good. Yeah, let's have, as you, Bobby, have already said, on the back channel, let's have diversity. Let's have not just blokes, but let's have the fair sex also, but also diversity, people from all walks of life, because they obviously have a different experience of LinkedIn, and we need to hear it.
Yeah, I'm down with that, and I think I've done a few kind of Zoom calls which I've called LinkedIn Leaders League, and we've done like 3 of those now, and I've put those out. Those have been pretty popular. So yeah, something like this. There's obviously an appetite from people to get their questions asked and answered, and some people feel a bit self-conscious about bombing our DMs and saying, because we're all busy people, right? But if we know, like, let's say, I don't know, once a month or something, that we're going to get together, we're going to gather all of your questions through mutual posts that we all put out, and then we're going to address them all in an hour. I think that would provide real value to people, and that's thought leadership in action. So yeah, I'm totally up for that. And I echo with what Andy said. There's lots of people who know this platform really, really well, and it's certainly not just guys. So yeah, let's have more of that, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really big on diversity. So if you guys want to be part of this, be one of our guests on our stage, please comment below. Tag folks, let people know what you want us to talk about, and if you want to be on our show, that would be great. I appreciate the idea of diversity, and then I think it's been our creator managers. Like, I don't have a creator manager yet, so if you know a creator manager, particularly the ones who there's somewhere championing diversity and inclusion, I would love to get hooked up or get connected. Please let them, tag them, get them to be part of this this conversation. Let's move on to the algorithm report. So Richard had the algorithm report. He did a post about frequency. And so, quick question to you guys, what's the frequency that you guys want and why? He does it once a year. What are your thoughts on that?
On when he should produce his algorithm?
Yeah.
So he hinted at this on our first session with him, that he wanted to go quarterly, mainly because he felt that, doing it at a set point on an annual basis really wasn't keeping up with the algorithm changes that he is seeing when he does his research. And he thought that instead of doing a quarterly report covering everything, he's going to focus on, I don't know, 2 or 3 perhaps elements of what he thinks or what he sees the algorithm is doing. So I personally, I think that's a smart move. And it'll certainly make it interesting for those of us who follow him and his research, to do that 4 times instead of just a yearly thing. So I'm for it, and I think once again, what he does for us is immensely useful, and we should all be grateful, because LinkedIn certainly doesn't do any of this, right? And it's not like it would harm them. It's not like it would hurt their algorithm at all by showing us, some of the things that, for example, what low quality means, right? Or whether something like the SSI factors in, etc. Right? So that, I think, that's my take.
My take is that whatever cadence he chooses, I will read the report. And my only concern about going quarterly is if it ends up becoming compare one document with another, and these 3 bullet points are all that's changed. The fear that it might end up becoming a bit samey, and people then only look for the software release notes of these 3 things have changed, everything else is the same. But whatever he can sustain, I'm going to read.
Yeah, I mean, I said that, I voted for twice a year because, number one, the resources to put this together, I think, is really difficult. And I suggested, if you want, I do it quarterly and have people pay for that, right? Do the free one once per year. And then the people who really want the quarterly one, they can actually, do that and pay for it. And I think that's a good business model for him. So that being said, the algorithm released, it was really amazing. And that's what launched these live streams. I do want to make sure that I address the fact that we were going to talk briefly about the company pages and algorithm. I know Andy said he wasn't interested in that. So, John, were there some interesting insights from the algorithm report from you in terms of company pages, things that you thought were really interesting? And I'll comment afterwards. Yeah,
I think company pages seem to have just kind of increased a bit in visibility recently. I'm starting to, I use mine as a test ground. It's an experimental thing. It's weird. You would think that you keep your serious stuff on your company page and do your personal stuff on your personal profile, but I've got so many more followers on my personal profile that actually that's my serious presence. And my company pages can be for test posts or just silly things or things that aren't strong enough to stand on their own. I do sense that company pages have been given more value in the feed. I see a bit more of that content, and certainly LinkedIn is starting to push that a bit more by giving new features on company pages. And of course, you've got things like, you know, being able to boost individual posts without having to go through quite as many hoops as you could last time. I think what would trump that is if they could boost individual posts on personal profiles, and that would really change the game. But I personally don't use my company page a whole lot for anything serious. So you know, to me, it doesn't matter too much, but I'm just interested to see on how they develop. I don't know what your thoughts are, Bobby.
Well, I mean, you know, I have a company page that has 22,000 followers, so it's pretty big. But the truth is that the engagement there is garbage, right? And maybe it's because I have done a good job of curating that over the years. But you know, there's still people there who. And the other thing with company pages, I love getting the data of the people that are there. It's certainly far better than what you get on LinkedIn. So one of the things the algorithm report that really I liked was it said there's a 25% increase on organic content in terms of views, which I think is great. The other one's interesting is that the showcase pages are dropping by 85% engagement. I think that's really bad news, because that was a way for us to showcase our products. But if that's not working, then you may want to rethink your strategy with that. And the other thing I'd like to understand more is, you know, what's going to be the, how do we get more? Because you know, they also said the polls don't do as well. So how do you create more engagement? I'm looking forward to new data on live streams, because I just got live stream access to all 4 of my company pages. You know, how's that going to help engage people? Because I'm struggling to get engagement on my company page, and I post 4 or 5 times a week. The engagement is really, really low, and so how do I engage these people? And so that's what I need to try to figure that stuff out.
I think LinkedIn could definitely help us. Like, for example, one of the big things is that a company page is you're presented with a logo, right? You're not presented with a human face. So why couldn't company pages have a cover story where the CEO of the company can speak to you directly, or have an audio pronunciation feature, or have a custom mailbox just for company page messages that people, you know, a team could definitely respond to really, really quickly, or integrate notifications from company pages in your main feed so that whoever's looking after their LinkedIn profile can see everything in one panel rather than have to go off to do things. Why couldn't it be that you can respond from your personal profile or your company page as a comment, depending on what kind of comment? These are technical things that LinkedIn could help us with to make company pages more engaging. I think the central problem is it feels detached, it feels impersonal, and no one wants to talk to a logo. People want to talk to a face. And that's the central thing that you need to overcome if you want to get more engagement. People who are doing it well, like, you know, Gong is a famous example as a computer software company, they just make their posts really fun and personal and relatable, and they get massive engagement. So it's just, it's as if you're turning up as a human being, personal. That's how people get engaged. I think that's the secret.
Yeah, the fundamental problem with company pages is that people want to do business with people, and not brands, especially, you know, forgettable brands. Like you're not McDonald's, right? You're Grey Burger. And so when Grey Burger comments on my post, like, who the heck's this, right? And you know, why should I care? So that's the fundamental problem. I think unless you're selling something, then you should have a shop. You should have a storefront on LinkedIn. That's your company page. But for the vast majority of people, for example, job seekers, no way should they have a company. There's no point. It's a complete waste of their time. They're interested in you. Your biggest, your best brand is your name.
Yeah, and I think the people that are, you know, I'm talking to Michelle Raymond and Brendan Miller about this. So, you know, LinkedIn Mastery on Clubhouse is every day. They do company pages every Tuesday. And one of the things that's, you know, great is that they share some really great insights on that. But a big part of it is that, yes, you should humanize the experience. That does a lot better, for sure. And I think there's also people that, you know, are, for example, my company page is the individual brand of Bobby as a coach, right? So that's versus, you know, the company, a large scale company. So there's a different strategy for their different benefit for what you're trying to do. So just want to make sure that we, you know, and Brenda says company pages may have lower reach, but the visitors are highly concentrated, people interested in your content. So good to know. And I see another question here, but from Bettina, is it better to be detached for those that have a job and a business and want to keep it separate?
How do you mean separate? I mean, you can achieve multiple things.
Well, I think what they're saying is, like, you have a corporate job, but then let's say you have a side hustle, another business, right? Do you keep it separate? I mean, the general thing I tell people is that your personal profile on LinkedIn is your overall thought leadership brand of everything you do. So the things you care about, all your businesses, all your social justice issues, the thing, so I post about my kids, I post about my social justice causes, I post about all the things that I'm doing that I'm interested in. Whereas the company pages are very focused specifically on those businesses. So that's kind of how I separate it.
I constantly help clients who are trying to do multiple things via their profile, via their strategy. It's definitely, feasible. And if you do it well, then you'll be attracting those folks who you want to feed via your side hustle without in any way harming what you do, during the day, your day job. So it's definitely possible. And I think you need to, think about branding. You think about, all right, what am I doing here today? And also long term, right? What am I going to do with that side hustle? Is that going to be something that I eventually want to transition to full time? How am I going to achieve that? So I think that's fundamentally how you should tackle it.
Yeah, it's a lot of work though, isn't it? Because you go from having one LinkedIn to having 2 LinkedIns or maybe 3 LinkedIns. And that's a hard hamster wheel to run through.
That's where a company page would come in handy, right? The company page for the side hustle.
Yeah, and ideally, if you have a company that's growing and you have staff, I mean, part of your social media strategy should be to assign someone to do this work, whether it's company page on LinkedIn or your Instagram business page or whatever it might be. So make sure you allocate the time and resource for that stuff, because it can be quite good. We're at the top of the hour, so I want to be mindful of your time. So if there's other questions that people ask or things you guys want to talk about, I'm happy to dive into another topic. I'm open. I have a pretty open schedule today, which is great. But
should we make sure that we've handled all the questions? I've
been trying to track them all. It's pretty hard, but I think I've got most of them.
It is hard.
While you're looking at questions, there's one bit of feedback I had from Rachel Simon, who is a LinkedIn trainer in the US, and she killed the draft of her newsletter. And then when she tried to create it again, it said, you cannot create another newsletter for 6 months. And she was like, what?
Yeah,
So
that was horrible.
I think in discussion to get that, reversed, but be very careful. If you're going to jump into this thing, actually be ready to do the thing and get it out, because otherwise it seems like LinkedIn applies real handcuffs on you, and you don't want to be hit by that.
It seems unnecessary and punitive. I hope that LinkedIn can somehow, I don't know if there are special circumstances where that can be nullified, but that seems ridiculous.
With that, if people are asking questions or there's things you want to cover, let me just first say thank you for being here, and we can keep going if you want, if you have things you want to talk about. But I'd love for you to each share something you're working on that you'd like for people to take a look at or subscribe to.
Well, I'm working on the draft of my next book, which is Relentless. That should be out in July next year. But for the time being, I've written a book about personal branding and content called Content DNA. So I'd love people to check that out.
Yeah, I'm working on the draft of my next newsletter article. I've got nothing to promote. I mean, I do my thing.
Do your thing. That's nice. Okay. All right. And I appreciate that. And for me, again, I'm promoting the TEDx workshop on the Saturday, bit.ly/TEDx workshop, all lowercase. You want to check that out. And we're going to try to do more. And I'm looking to then book more speakers on here. I also do LinkedIn Mastery every day. Not me, but there's other people that are doing LinkedIn Mastery every day on it. And we're actually heading to our 1-year anniversary. So 365 days in a row. What's the evolution of it? It's probably going to change. There'll probably be different time zones. It'll probably be different. It won't be, I don't think it'll be as frequent, but just hitting that goal, I think, was something that I had in mind. And I'm talking to all the people that want to do stuff on there. Brenda Miller asked a question. I'm struggling right now with being unable to block a member on LinkedIn. I've learned that you can block if you share groups or if you've been on the same LinkedIn event. Any workarounds?
Well, I'm not going to give her a workaround if she's trying to block me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that started out as trying to block someone from your company page, and there's definitely no way of doing that, which I think is a massive hole, because if you've got someone who is really intent on getting at you, you can block them personally, but you can't block them from your company page. That feels really weird. But I didn't know until yesterday about the fact that you can't block people if they share a group or even attend the same event as you. And actually, it's not that difficult to find out what event someone is going to, and that people who work out that loophole can keep doing whatever they're doing. So there isn't a workaround I'm aware of, I'm afraid, and that has to go to LinkedIn support. And trust and safety, you would think, would be pretty hot on this, because that can be a mental health or, you know, a physical security thing. Who knows? But I would like to think that they'd be hot on that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure. And for me, that's a big issue. Get LinkedIn help. I think sometimes LinkedIn help on LinkedIn is slow, but LinkedIn on Twitter is actually faster. So if you tweet them, you know, and I'm nearing 500,000 followers on Twitter, 499,800 people. So I will tweet them and bug them, and they'll probably take more notice. So Brenda, just bug me about that, and I'll tweet them, because
one of my favorite approaches to getting help quickly from LinkedIn is to @LinkedIn help in the actual comment.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't want to do that for blocking. Hey, LinkedIn help, I need to block Andy Foot. Tell me how to do that. That's obviously not going to be appropriate.
And breaking news, Brenda said it's not you, Andy.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay.
She's so nice. She's lovely.
Yeah.
Bobby, thanks very much for hosting. I'm available for another 5 minutes or so if you'd like. Any questions that we haven't answered, they should re-ask in the comments, because they are kind of hard to keep a track of, and Bobby's done a remarkably wonderful job of doing that. So any questions that we haven't answered, then go ahead and re-ask them, please.
Well, you know, I'll ask a question of you guys. I mean, you know, how do people find your newsletter? Did you actually add it to your profile, or what did you do? Did you put in your featured section? What did you do?
I haven't done that yet, but I think it's a good idea. I was thinking about creating a custom graphic image and pointing people towards actually a page on my site that maybe embeds a page that would let people subscribe to the newsletter, so I could do a bit of tracking about how frequently clicked that thing is. But yeah, because otherwise it can actually be a bit hard to find, because your newsletter dashboard is kind of like a common base URL, and then it's the name of your newsletter and then a string of numbers. It's really ugly. I mean, it's not something you can you know, that trips off your tongue, and it's not actually the easiest thing to find. So if you actually want those subscribers, you know, put something in your banner image, put something in your featured section, you know, something like that to help people find it beyond the initial push of all of those notifications that went out. I think that's a really good idea.
Create a bit.ly link as well, right?
Yeah, you should do.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, how about you, Andy? Is it on there, or you don't do it?
It isn't on there right now. I'm not sure if I will do, because you know, graphically it's not compelling. It would just be the Curious AF sort of banner. And I quite like what I already have there pinned and featured. So, I mean, frankly, it's building quite nicely as it is. And that's without me doing anything at all other than publishing it, right? So, yeah, I'll have to see how it goes, which is pretty much my approach with everything on LinkedIn is okay, this seems to be working. Let's double down on that. And, oh, that did not. Why didn't it? And that's, you know, that's my methodology.
And, you know, even though I said I would do weekly with my newsletter, it's Thursday, and I have a workshop on Saturday. I have a speaking gig next week, so I won't be able to do it till next week. So it's going to be 2 weeks from that previous one. Andrea did rephrase her question. I'm thinking of using a snappy content slider as a newsletter content template, so people can see right away that it will be a quick read with snackable content. What do you think? What will that affect SEO as a newsletter is indexed?
I don't know if you can actually embed a document, what is equivalently a document post into the newsletter. I haven't actually tried to do that. I would think that something like a carousel like that probably isn't the most SEO friendly thing actually, but I haven't tested it to see what Google indexes and what the user experience is of consuming that. So I don't really know. It's an interesting idea to play with, though. I wonder whether maybe something like an infographic summary of what would have been stacked vertically would be maybe a more consumable way of doing it. But then you've got to think about the admin burden of creating that. So I don't know. Yeah,
in my last newsletter, I think you're right, John. I don't think you can add something like a carousel into an article. But what I did with my most recent newsletter, where I synthesized all three of Richard van der Blom's algo reports, I took essentially.
That was great, by the way.
Thank you, bud. Every slide, and I put it in. You know, it was a bit of a struggle, not struggle, but it took a long time.
And then lunatic move, but brilliant one.
And then I just did that, and you know, goodness knows what the SEO or the bots thought of that. But yeah, so far so good. But to me, you know, visually, if you can, if it's relevant, if it's compelling, and obviously it fits with the text, then you definitely do it.
Here's an idea for people. You can embed a LinkedIn video post into a newsletter without the furniture of the rest of the post, just the video. So if you've made a video post that was successful, when you go to embed that into a newsletter, well, this is certainly true for articles, and I assume that it will be true for newsletters because they use the same technical structure. There is a tick box that says show with post, and you could get rid of that and it will just put the video in. So you can reuse content that you know has been successful before. What that looks like in the resulting email, don't know, but you could do that very, very easily, essentially copying and pasting a couple of links. So embedding native video posts is possible.
Just to be clear, you say successful videos. I mean, I've had videos that I think are very, very good, but didn't really do well because, you know, videos that don't do well. So I'll still share that one because I think it's a good story, but I appreciate your point. Last question before we head off is, when's the best time to publish a newsletter on LinkedIn? Is it the same as newsletters in general?
Whenever you're ready. This is the problem that I have with anyone who proclaims, oh, you've got to do it Tuesday, 10 a.m.
Yeah.
No. I mean, then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that everyone starts doing that. And then suddenly you got limited eyeballs because everyone's like, it's the same thing with newsletter deluge, right? Everyone's piling in saying, oh, it's Tuesday 10, you know, so-and-so said it was Tuesday 10 a.m. No, it's when you're ready. And we already know, you know, the hardcore fans on LinkedIn are there for the weekend, right? Because it's less noisy. So, yeah, I'm not a fan of everyone who says this prescription approach to tick, 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 and then I'll be good. Nah, just do it when you're ready and test, obviously.
Yeah, I've got like 4 years of my own data that shows that my most successful posts in terms of views, likes, comments always happen on Saturdays and Sundays. And that's because there seems to be less competition there. And if you know, I mean, if you know that probably people are going to have a cheeky look at their email around 4 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon, because, you know, so your partner's watching football or whatever, then maybe publishing something on a weekend that you've written during the week. You can't schedule these things at the moment, sadly, but if you could, then you know, people are online on the weekends, and maybe that's as good a time as any. I also don't buy the Tuesday, you know, 10 a.m. thing either.
Someone just asked a last minute question. What about GIFs in newsletters? That's from Bettina.
GIFs?
GIFs, GIFs. What's the proper? I always say GIFs. Is it GIFs?
It's definitely GIF.
Or is that a British thing?
I'm kidding. It's GIF.
Okay.
The guy who invented them says that they're GIFs, but everyone.
Yeah, right.
I think they're possible. Yes, I'm pretty sure that they're possible to put in there. How well they're received, I don't know. I don't tend to create very many myself. I'd love to see them come back for company page logos. They were taken away a couple of years ago unceremoniously. But yeah, I don't know is the answer.
I like how John was about to say GIF, but then he didn't say it. So you paused.
It's gifts for me. It's gifts.
All right. Listen, thanks everybody. I appreciate you guys being here. If you guys want us to do this again, you want to be a guest speaker, let us know. Please follow these gentlemen and their newsletters. Please follow me and my newsletters. And content creator managers, look us up and give me some opportunities to talk to you, because I'm trying to have a conversation with you guys. With that, we'll sign off. Again, today's Remembrance Day and Veterans Day, so please take the time to honor fallen soldiers, take the time to reflect on the freedoms that they fought for in the past and continue to fight for. So, you know, I want people to be mindful of that. And I want to thank you too for being here. Thanks, everybody. And so long, farewell. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Bobby.
Thanks all. Cheers.
Bye,
Take
John.
care.
Bye.